Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sunrise in Pineland. I am your host, Tom Kaczynski. The Lord's blessing be upon you this day. It looks like we're closing in on 8 a.m. Eastern, United States East Coast. Welcome from Maine. Hope you're all having a great day today here on the 11th of February. What I want to say to you guys, before we start the show, as I said, it's the end of an era. This is one of the more important episodes I'm going to do. Before I get into all the details of it, let me say one thing. The systems that previously ran this world, I think, have now reached the point of critical mass where they can no longer function for a lot of different reasons. And I think the trucker convoy has revealed to a lot of people that it's impossible to live the way we used to live. And what I'm saying by that is this, that people have been locked down for a very long time, more so in Canada than here. But what we are seeing is now people have gotten a breath of fresh air and that they want to do something different. And while there are good actors and bad actors, while there are grassroots patriots, while there are interested community members, while there are subversive elements, it doesn't really matter once you understand that there's a more fundamental problem here, which is that the fact that a stakeholder in the truckers who have the ability and who are actualizing it to shut down the existing system, the system was already dying. It had a lot of problems. When they shut down COVID, they shut down the way people thought about money, the way people thought about work, the way people thought about their relationship with the state. And the old systems of command and control that the elites broke through their desire to build their new world order are now going away. So, what does that mean in the future? It means that money isn't going to work the way it used to. How do you know this? Look at the inflation cost when you go to the supermarket. If you took real inflation numbers on fixed items, you're looking at things in some sectors as much as 30-40% over the year. And those numbers are growing fastly. That's what the Federal Reserve is talking about, a rate hike of potentially either today or maybe on Monday, where you're going to see 50 basis points. That's going to tighten up the money markets. What's that mean? You're not going to be able to buy things the same way, and your money's not going to have purchasing power. So, if I can give you one big suggestion, if you have any purchases you've been waiting to do it now, and I would recommend do it either today or if you have to do it tomorrow, but do not wait until Sunday. Sunday's the Super Bowl, and we already see the pre-scripting of this. You had Mayorkas, the Homeland Security Secretary, out there saying that there's going to be a big convoy coming to the Super Bowl, and they're trying to. I heard a phrase on this. I think Tucker used it called "bad appling," where what they're trying to do is put a bad name on the people who have decided to shut down this country to get their freedoms back and to shut down Canada. And you see this in New Zealand and Australia, even in Austria. They're marching on Vienna. I'm not even joking. I was watching videos of this and they're giving them a really hard time about it. But this is something that's happening. And they're taking political prisoners like Arthur Pavlovsky up there in Canada. You should see they won't even give the guy water. They're putting him in a kennel cage. I mean, this is what they're reporting from. This isn't Alberta. That's Canada's Texas, you know? And all of this is ongoing, and the governments of the world and the elites don't know how to respond. They can only scream Nazi so long before woke culture goes away. And the culture war they have declared against the people have revolted against it. And while it is not all of the people, it is enough of the people, and enough of the people who are productive elements of our society that society can no longer function. And that even if they agreed to go back to work, the reality is people have gotten a taste of power, and now we have a spirit, I hate to say it, of 1789 floating around. And for those of you who know the French Revolution, things could get a little ugly. So I want to make a suggestion before I go deep into this, and this is what I wanted to do with the monologue today, was to explain that the convoy has a very good idea that we need to get rid of the mandates and the requirements that let people live the way they want to live without infringing upon their bodily sovereignty with respect to genetic manipulation treatments that are questionable and a number of people are getting sick from. But if you want it to actually stick, here's what you got to do on top of everything else is you got to get rid of federal policing and you got to get rid of state policing. We've seen firsthand from the most recent updates, we've seen from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police have been used as the bully boys. We've seen from the terrible scenes coming out of New Zealand where we had 12 officers resign over there because they were beating on protesters, including children and handicapped people. We've seen here in the United States how the FBI basically has become a left-wing lynch mob that's set on by political entities. And I feel sorry for the officers who are out there, but the day of federal policing has died, and state police is no better. And most states, have that problem. It's certainly the case in Maine. They're very political. Police has to be simplified to this level. Sheriffs and constables. You have some guy with the county who works with the courts that's local, that fits the people of that community and the juries and judges who live there. And then you have constables to keep the peace in town. You don't need a lot of police. You need police who are enmeshed in their community, who are invested in their community, and not where some tyrant from above, whether it be a governor, like Janet Mills or Kathy Hochul. Hochul, how do we say it wrong?
You say Hochul, it's Hochul.
Kathy Hochul, or Jennifer Granholm, any of these people, or Jason Kenney or Doug Ford up there in Canada, up there in Ontario, or anyway, you have people like that, and then you have, of course, Biden, you have Trudeau, you have all these terrible figures. Take the power away from them permanently. Do not give them the tool to take this back, because if at the end of the day they agree to get rid of the mandate, all it's going to take is one trust the science lie ahead, where they're going to impose that on you. And don't think they're not mad. You have to strip them of their tools. You are dealing with a feral animal, and you're going to have to declaw it. And what would be cruelty to a cat is good sense to do to politicians. It's one of the things that we did very smartly in America. We gave the Second Amendment as an ability to serve as a check on that. And that's why Canada was different than Australia as well, because people still have to respect the fact that there is that threat of violence. But if you don't want violence, you have to take away the ability of the government to impose violence upon you. And how do you do that? You say you don't have federal policing powers, you don't have provincial policing powers, you don't have state policing powers. Give everything back to the sheriffs, who can defend their counties just fine. In Canada, I know you have counties, or you have electoral districts in the West, ridings. Get counties back, or whatever you want to call it. And then you have local, police officers, and you don't let governors and premiers and that go forward, because that's how you're going to have to win this. Otherwise, it's going to go back. Watched a really interesting video from this old Canadian trucker. I think that's actually his name. He was telling this really funny story about, what life in trucking is. He said it was 90% listening to a truck go, "Arr," and the other 10% of it was a complete catastrophe. I'm not going to use his words, but it was very, very funny. But he made a good point, which is that the next step in this narrative is that, good morning, Patrick, good to see you. The next step in this narrative is that they're going to blame the truckers for the supply shortages. What has been happening is the Biden administration went out there and they said to them, we want the federal government in Canada to intervene. And apparently, from what I'm hearing on the ground, is they've been trying to open up new border crossings in order to get trucks across. And the truckers, of course, who are communicating faster and more nimbly on CB, this is their life, they are shutting it down. So we have multiple bridges shut out down between Ontario and Michigan. We have reports of shutdowns where Ontario is going into New York. A lot of shutdowns coming out of Manitoba. That's Winnipeg coming into the center of the country. And you know about the different stories in Alberta. The only places I'm not hearing too much about is here in the Northeast, up in the main crossings up in 95. Not hearing too much up there, but it's not a heavily trafficked crossing, to be honest with you. And then I don't have anything going on that I hear over in BC, over on the I-5 corridor on the West Coast. BC is kind of an outlier in a lot of ways, but the center of the country and the primary parts of this are shutting down. At the same time, we see convoys starting to form all over the place, and there's stories that the American convoy is finally starting to form a little bit. So that is something that we see. Let's see. Free Green Living Company says, I live on a homestead near James Bay, Ontario. Good to see you. And drove to Ottawa with my converted camper box truck with everything I need inside and bolted doors to try to stop me from going to Ottawa. Man, hey, good luck to you and God bless you. You have a lot of fans here in the United States. We're cheering for you. And I want you to know, and I want this to be very clear, we this channel, just to go back, and you've been here a while, so you know what I'm talking about. We have long taken an interest in Canada. It's no secret that I live within a hop, skip, and a jump from Canada. I literally look across the border most days, just from where I go visit for things I have to do. And we are invested in you. We are supporting you. They have tried, some of you may or may actually wouldn't know this. So Give, Send, Go. Let's go to this point. Give, Send, Go. Actually, let me take a step back. GoFundMe was a corrupt institution, which I could have told you because they screwed us long ago. They took and tried to take $10 million from the Canadian truckers, plus on the request of Justin Trudeau and the Ontario government. What ended up happening is that money was returned after a whole bunch of chargebacks, and much love to Operation Chargeback, 4chan represent. Reddit's going to lose in the end. Because that the whole universe comes down to a fight between 4chan and Reddit. Will the INTJs beat the? I don't know, what would Reddit be. We'll have to figure it out. You guys have to tell me what you think, and how it fits into the MBTI. But in any case, what ended up happening was that GoFundMe was going to steal the money, and they were going to give it to left wing causes. And the American attorneys general in Texas, Florida, and other states intervened to stop that, and people started going to Give, Send, Go, which is a much better site, Christian fundraising site. My brothers and sisters in Christ standing together, solidarity, very important. And so the Ontario, I believe it's the Superior Court up there. I'm not sure what the jurisdictional court is, but said that that money can't be distributed in Canada. And the CFO last night of Give, Send, Go said, and a further press release on Twitter confirmed that Give, Send, Go says, well, we're an American company. You're in Canada, so pound sand. And of course, then the question is there going to be pressure from the Biden administration? And there may very well be. The other part of it is that, from what my understanding is, and this may be incorrect, but it makes sense logically, is that there will be an American holding company that will take the money and move it across borders. See, George Soros, you're not the only one who knows color revolutions, by the way. The people are getting wise to your tricks, and that garbage you're trying to pull over in Ukraine. We're trying to do something a little bit better here to actually liberate the people, free the people from what's happening. So that money, which I believe was over $8 million last I checked, that number continues to rise. I know their goal is 16 million. Hopefully they get there. They were on Tucker, they were on Hannity. There's going to be money thrown at this. Okay, so and there's problems. To be fair, when you bring other entities in, things get complicated. People have different things. But the fact is, the truckers do need the money. They need the support on the ground. They need to have a police officers that don't go around literally. I'm not even kidding. Last night we had Canadian officers in Ottawa going and confiscating firewood from people. I mean, at some point, don't you guys have any shame? I mean, is this really where we're at now? And literally, they've tried to destroy their own cities, right? And they've had the truckers have been serving as the cleanup crew. They've been serving as the janitors and the street sweepers and all of these things, and the bouncy houses and all that. And what was the suggestion that some Canadian officials said? Well, maybe we should take their kids for putting them in an unsafe environment. Absolutely crazy, but this is where it's at. So in any case, it doesn't matter. The American right wing is engaged in this now. We've been watching it, and enough people have woken up. The boomer cons are on the scene, and they love to cause things, and they got money to spend. Lord knows they're wasting their kids' inheritance, so let's waste it on something good, right? We're going to watch and help the truckers out. So what you should expect is a lot more money to come in from the United States. And of course, the Canadian government saying, this is terrorism coming from America trying to change this, because there's always been a thread in Canadian politics. And look, I study Canadian politics of this vague anti-Americanism. That ends today. Canada and America are one people separated by a border. And whatever the future is that we are going to experience, now they're inextricably interlinked. Canada went out there and took more freedom and rebellion than America could manage. And you guys could do it for two reasons. Number one, because your mandates were absolutely absurd, they were awful, and that you suffered it. We had places to escape to, you did not. I was literally helping people cross over. I understand this. This was a big problem. Number two, the thing that you need to understand was that up there, you don't have the awful policing we have here, the Joint Terrorism Task Force Center, the Patriot Act. We live in a totalitarian state in the United States. I mean, you should see some of the stuff the DHS passes. In Canada, because they overlooked you, because they dismissed you, they forgot that you are the honey badger. They forgot that you guys are the ones who came down. And the history of it, you look at it, was it Juno Beach, right? I mean, the Canadians were legitimately really tough guys. Like, if you've ever seen the old Devil's Brigade movies, of that unit that was founded of Canadian troops with American troops. Together, this continent, these two people, we can do great things together. And we're going to, because your government is a tyranny, our government's a tyranny. And we know that all of them will punish us if we don't stand together. And so this is where the story goes. The truckers understand this. God bless them. And they understand that they'll be replaced with machines in just a few years if they don't see this through. They have to win. They have no choice. They cannot back down. And because they can't win, because they're on what Sun Tzu calls killing ground, which is to say that you're desperately backed in a corner where you either fight to win or you die, they're going to win. Because the government has been forcing this and forcing this. But once you get that taste of power, it's not going to go away. And so what has to happen is you have to take away the tools of governments to do this to you. You can't say, oh, well, if we just change who's in office. I mean, look how fast the Tories up there were backpedaling. Look how Mitch McConnell here in the United States was apologizing, saying, well, the January 6th thing was an insurrection. That was a protest that went out there where you labeled your own people citizens. And I would say that we've reached a point where every incumbent needs to be tossed from office. And yeah, there's some good ones I like. I like Ryan Paul. I like Thomas Massey. I like the state of Kentucky. It seems like they get some things right except for the turtle. And I love turtles, but not that one. And if you really want to know what his problem is, look at who his wife's related to. I think her family's one of the biggest holders of Chinese assets out there. Same person. You know who got the honking thing put in? It was a Chinese foreign national, actually, if I understand it right from what I'm reading on Telegram. That's been happening up there. So we have to stand together in solidarity, and we have to take down these big systems. And when it's all done, we don't know what the answer is. We really don't. People like you and me, we're going to have to step out there and say some things. But what we can't do is allow the tools that have been weaponized against us to continue. Because if we give them one, it's like if you've seen the movies, right? If you leave someone with a weapon, how long is it before you make peace with them? You turn around and they stab you in the back. We have to declaw these people. We have to take away their ability to hurt us. And then we can get to the question of what we do in the future. And it seems like Mike Adams had a really good show yesterday. He was saying that what has happened is that people have lost their faith in centralization, and there is no answer. This is a show where we always say things are localized. What works in northern New England and the Maritimes is not what's going to work out in the prairies in Alberta Alberta and Montana, or down in Dixie, or in urban Ontario. And it's okay. It's fine if we don't have the same answers. We shouldn't have the same answers. We shouldn't be forced into a one size fits all life. We should be able to enjoy the God given liberty that is given to us so we can find our way to the Lord, and so that we can actually seek what's good, and that we don't seek government to solve every problem in our life. That we let other people, we leave space. We don't let them take every dollar we earn. We don't let them police us into it. And look, if people get sick and die, they get sick and they die. But there's no point in accepting death before you live. People who want to wear a mask, wear a mask. People who want to take a shot, take a shot. But you can't force people to do these things. You just can't do that. And I will tell you, the truth is starting to come out with these like Nuremberg 2.0 trials. People are getting sick and dying, and there's so it's going to be a tragedy if it's fully understood where the death toll is going to run the odometer like crazy. This is what we're going to deal with. And we can't talk medicine here, but you know what? We're going to be able to soon enough because this paradigm is breaking. But here's the danger. Here's the danger. The supply chain is going to break. If the truckers don't do it themselves, the elites will do it and blame the truckers. This is what you're going to be hearing a week from now. You're going to be hearing the reason why you can't get food in the supermarket is because the truckers are revolting. They're terrorists who have weaponized the system against you. Never mind the fact that for the last 2 years, we've had economic shutdowns. Oh, you have to shut down that business and we'll throw you in jail. You have to not hire these people. We'll throw you in jail. You have to do this and we'll fine you. We'll have people watch you. And so we are now fighting economic warfare. This is blockade warfare. This is siege warfare. There are lots of forms of warfare between polite politics and shooting people in the streets. And we are now wading into that gray area that happens. And this was something that happened a lot in the 19th century in Europe, in the 20th century in Latin America, where people gathered and made voluntary organizations and associations. And in the 18th century in America, what do you think was happening? Committees of correspondence, the Sons of Liberty. This is what happened, but it's happening fast, and you got to keep your head on a swivel. Except this time it was Rubber Duck talking on the CB, breaker, breaker. Come on. That's where we're dealing with this. And it's good because these are people who understand logistics, but the logistics are broken now. And what's going to happen, and look, I was a logistics manager for many years for a government contractor. I understand this field. And in fact, I'm going to try to do what I can to help where we can, because the problem we're going to run into is supplies can't get to the people who need them. And what we are going to have to do is figure out ways to cut out the middleman. Otherwise, people are not going to be able to get the things they need. But you're going to expect, if you don't know now already, within the next 2 weeks, and potentially as early as the middle of next week, expect to see massive food shortages start to see factories shutting down, especially in the industrial Midwest, because goods and services will not flow. Specifically, auto parts are going to go back and forth across the Canadian border, as well as lumber, which is a major production element in Canada that goes to the whole construction industry. And a lot of these blue collar trades are going to try to turn you against the truckers. It's time for the union guys to represent, to stand together. If you're a teamster, if you're a steam fitter, what are the other ones here? A brick. I used to know all when I lived in Pittsburgh and I was a teamster. I used to actually know all the ones. Steam fitters. What was it? The bricklayers, the carpenters, all of these different unions, the plumbers. All of you guys need to stand together. And whether you're a union shop or you're a non-union shop, it isn't about the money at this point. It's about a question of who will make decisions. You don't want the IRS to be tracking every little suggestion you have. You don't want the social media state to shut you down for everything out there. You have to be willing to break this, because ultimately the person who's willing to give up the most is going to win. And will this break the whole society? Yes. And it's going to happen anyway. The question is, do you break it halfway, give them power back because you get scared, and then have them oppress you unto eternity in this transhumanist thing? Or do we let it all fall and deal with the consequences of that? And what are the consequences? They're big. You might see China annex Taiwan. You might see Russia annex Ukraine. You might see a world war. You might see our people try to start the war on this side. You might see America doing what it's been doing, sending mercenaries over to help the Ukrainians get into a fight that makes no sense for everyone, where the Europeans are recoiling, NATO ending. It doesn't matter. Now, where you live is your future, and that's really important. You need to understand that. It's your locality, your ability to survive. If things go badly, you need to be able to take care of your needs at home. But if things go well, you also need to be able to do that, because there's not a big solution. There's 1,000 different people working one by one to make solutions to problems and trying desperately to anticipate them before they come. There isn't a one-size-fits-all solution, because then they'll target you. This is leaderless. This is tough. This is organic. But we have to anticipate. Food's going to be a problem. Fuel's going to be a problem. And the propaganda is going to be a problem. And if you can help get in front of that for the truckers, and you figure out how to get goods to people, that's really huge. So this is where we're at. But what I want to say is, you need to be concerned. You need to be concerned because we are now going to have an economic breakdown and people are not ready for it. And if you live in a city, especially in cities in the United States where there are whole groups of people, millions of people who've been indoctrinated to learned helplessness, and where they expect the government to take care of them, when the government doesn't, that's going to be the angry mob that's going to stand against this. And that is the cultural civil war that we've been talking about for a very, very long time that is now coming into focus. And I'm not attacking those people. Those people have a right to live. They have a right to be well. They have all those things, and yet they've made very bad choices. And they can either admit those choices were wrong, or they can double down and blame people. And if they blame people, the trucks aren't going to go. Less of a problem in Canada. We all like each other. Here in the States, it's a much bigger problem. So these are some of the things I want you to be mindful for as we go forward in this story, because we are going to have to watch that you probably are not going to be able to buy goods as cheaply or as easily as you do right now. And I've been saying it for a while, but I believe this, that this coming week, we are now facing the most dangerous situation we've faced in America since January 6th. And I would say in Canada, it's definitely a case. What is happening there is if the government pushes back, the government can't win this fight unless they resort to violence. That's the reality of it. And if they push to violence, that they will cause an almost unthinkable thing, that they will cause a civil war to break out. And it may happen because Americans will go help the Canadians. That's possible. And you can say what you want about that, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, it doesn't matter. Because the reality is the Biden administration is going to help the Trudeau administration. And there are a great many people here who are not terrorists for stating the obvious truth, which is that a guy who can't get 10 people to come to his crowd did not get the most votes in human history, especially when you saw 2,000 mules running around with different votes. And what that means for the future, I don't know. But what we know is we don't know what we want. That's fair. That's a conversation people are going to have. What we know is we don't want what we're getting, and then we have to sit down and come up with plans. And as that goes forward, I am not one of those people, and I'll be very clear about it because one needs to be honest about these things. I don't think that absolute freedom is the absolute answer. I don't. I believe that liberty minus virtue is a death sentence. I believe that. I'm going to stand up for what I think is morally correct. But I also understand that people who have different beliefs, that there is a path through separation where we can find peace. That's what we talk about in Pineland, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe lines look different. Maybe things are highly decentralized, so there's a place for people to organize as they want, and the government now doesn't stop us from building the societies we want, or that we can utilize our ways in much more effective, because we invest a hell of a lot of money into people who hate us to get us in trouble. Military industrial complex, this huge community policing racket, the whole IRS, the Fed, and we're going to have a new way of doing things. I mean, automation is coming. I don't like it, but it's the reality, unless we go full dark ages. And maybe we will, and if we do, that's fine. I studied medieval history. I'm ready for it. Let's Deus Vult. Let's do it. But I mean, most people don't want that, and I get that too. So if we're going to find a different way, we have to find a way to take away the ability of this to be done to us again. So let me see what you guys are writing real fast, because I see a lot of things coming in here. Good to see you, by the way, Firm Girl Rebel. Glad you're here. Old school counselor, always good to see you. Thank you for the work you're doing, sir. Appreciate that. Police check if I was carrying extra fluid in back. This is up in Ontario, right? But runs on wood gas, so nothing they can confiscate except my food supplies I grow myself. I just lied and said I'm supplying groceries stores with a fake printed order for Whole Foods. So so if I understand this, Free Green Living, you're telling me the police up there in Ontario, and is this the Ontario Provincial Police, are literally confiscating food and fuel from you because they're afraid you're going to go to and give this to the truckers? Please explain, just so I can understand. Farm Girl says, wish I could get up to Ottawa and see it in person. Yeah, I mean, the party's going on there, and I think it's going to be big this weekend. She's writing that a 911 call center, all-cause deaths are up like crazy. They are. I mean, if you look at some of the numbers, it's really sad. And Brian writes, Six Semper Tyrannis, thus always the tyrants. The state model of Virginia, actually, as well as what was said in ancient Latin times. That, of course, whether you think Brutus was justified or not, that's a whole other story, but we're not going to argue Roman history. Nonetheless, we are now dealing with tyranny. And I'm dealing with a hen fight here. Faith, come on, be nice.
No, it's not her. It's Barb.
Oh, Barb did it. Barb is. Oh, we got a hen on camera. Come here. Say hi to the people. All right, that's Faith. Everyone say hi to Faith. She's our Lavender Orpington.
Faith has a broken toe.
She has a broken toe, so we're there.
She's getting spoiled.
She does. It's superficial. Hey, it's good to see you, superficial. Good you're here today. I hope things improve down there in Australia. I know down there it's been a little bit of a fight too. It's been a big problem. In fact, they were saying literally that you're dealing with Russian subversives because that guy Aussie Cossack was there. Okay, let's see. Free Green Living. It's a blockade, and they say it's a drunk driving check stop. Can you tell me what police authority is it? The RCMP, or is it the was it the Ottawa Provincial Police, or some other entity? Or excuse me, not Ottawa, Ontario. If I understand right, and I'm going to just say this for the American viewers because I've had to get a crash course on this. That basically the way policing works in Canada is the equivalent of the FBI, which is not really right. It's more like the Italian Carabinieri, which some people may be familiar with, a federal police force is run through the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, I think, if I remember right. And then you have provincial police forces that I believe answer to the governor, or no, you don't call them governors, premiers up there. So you have that, and then certain municipalities, I believe, like Ottawa. Okay, so the Ottawa provincial, or excuse me, the Ontario provincial police, and then you have the local localities. Certain cities have their police forces. So Ottawa will have one, Toronto will have one, and then those will be responsible to the mayor. One other piece of news I'm hearing is supposedly the mandates are going to be a plan for lifting them is going to come out of Premier Ford in Ontario. The pressure's getting on there, and the Tories, the way they've been kind of vacillating between the two sides, it really isn't working well. I mean, it really would probably be of benefit if Bernier or someone came forward. I like Mad Max, and I used to live close enough to places in Quebec where he was running that I actually had a chance to see some of those things. Actually, talked to some people who were in that. I mean, Lord knows that my French is so terrible, but it was still fun to have those conversations. And that's one of the more amazing things in Canada, the fact that you actually have the French and the English speaking Canadians working together. That doesn't happen. I believe me, I know it. And I say this as a Francophile, but also someone who loves Albertans and people in the prairie. It's different worlds, and I have no problem with having the fact you can have different people. Just because you like the French doesn't mean you don't like the Germans in Europe. You know what I mean? You can figure out different ways to work with things, you know? So, anyway, what else did I want to talk about today? Let me think for a second. I do want to say that one update from the Eastern Front here over what's happening in Ukraine. Biden had an interview on NBC News where he was saying that if the conflict breaks out there, no Americans will be able to be evacuated because it might be World War. Now, this could just be scripting to try to paint Russia as the bad guy for a false flag, but it's also worth noting that it seems like they've conceded that Russia can do practically what it wants in Ukraine, and we'll see what ends up happening there. A lot of people think something's going to happen this week, this coming week. It's something we're going to have to keep an eye on, and the government may need a distraction. But say they're going, and if you wanted to make the truckers go back to work, getting us into a war, as ridiculous as it sounds to say we have to get goods moving, and that now you're committing a crime against martial law, they do have that play on the table. I think it's an insane play, but we're dealing with insane people, and this is the point of today's show, that we have gone off the rails. Normalcy is out the damn window. So, don't be worried about your 401ks or what you're going to be doing 20 years from now. You need to be worried about what's going to happen 20 days from now. You need to be shortening your time frame, focusing on your fundamentals. What does that mean? You need to get food, you need to get fuel, you need to be prepared to help in your community, you need to be touching base with the people who are out there and accepting that a day is going to come very shortly where the goods are not going to be on the shelves. If the trucker convoy succeeds, that day will probably be within at most 3 to 10 days. If they don't, even then, with the lockdowns, with the production breaks, you're probably 2 weeks away. So this is Tom telling you, as the paranoid guy, the prepper up here in the cabin. Now is the time to go stock up. You need to be going to your box stores. You need to be going and grabbing what you can to support yourself. And if you have a little bit of extra money or you have means, get something to support a neighbor, to support someone who's near you, because the ability to stand out is going to be our ability to feed and care for one another. And I am heartened to know that the truckers are actually aware of these problems, and they're anticipating how they can get food to people potentially, rather than having Walmarts and all the other things say, oh, you're terrible, you shut it down. And in the governments, what they're going to do is they're going to try to impose by force at some point something, because as these people lose control over power, they're not going to be willing to let it happen. And we just have to stay home. We have to shut it down. We have to take care of one another. And we have to fight the propaganda war, which is going to be very obvious. These people hate you. They're trying to kill you. They're trying to starve you. Never mind the fact for a second that they were literally taking away people's jobs. How many people lost their jobs from this? How many people lost their businesses? No, we're not even allowed to talk about that. All over, overzealous mandates, and the most generous thing, and if you want to be really honest, an excuse to shut down the economy so you could have a control system. So no mandates, no passports. And by the way, no tests either. We ain't taking any more of those crappy PCR tests that are fake. I don't need to have a Q-tip jabbed up into my brain to tell someone in China, what Ancestry.com would otherwise tell them. We don't need that crap either. That's gone. We ain't doing that. The doctor days are done. And in the medical profession, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be real blunt. They have invalidated themselves by the means by which they've all come into this, with very few exceptions. People who were really brave, like, I don't know, pick your doctors, like Dr. Luc Montagnier, rest in peace, who went out there and said from the beginning that this was a hoax, and now the guy, he passed away, apparently from natural causes. Let's hope. A good man in a brave time. Dr. Malone, there were a whole bunch of others, and we have to go into all of them. Um, Dr. Tenpenny, all of the ones who are out there. I don't even know them all. It doesn't matter. You can find who they are. There's a guy up in Canada. It was Hodgkinson. He was up there with the truckers. Um, People who were willing to say it, and everyone who looked the other way, damn you for doing that. How many? And look, take it from me. I'm a guy who paid the price for not looking the other way. And you could like the issues I fought over or not. It doesn't really matter other than this. Whenever you say something that's true, the system doesn't like, it puts punishment on you. And that we need to stop allowing the system to punish people for speaking truth. We need to put truth out there. And look, sometimes truth is ugly. Sometimes truth is complex. Sometimes we can't agree on truth. And sometimes we have to learn intelligent adult ways to agree to disagree. If people don't want to live the same way, the answer isn't to force the people who don't want to live like you. The answer isn't to like punish them and throw them in a cell. And God knows, I hope the answer isn't we have to shoot people who don't think like we do. It may be, because they may not be able to get out of that mold. And I don't want that. Nobody wants that. The Canadians sure as hell don't want that. And in America, the reason that nothing's happened, people say, oh, right wing, domestic terrorists, far right. You don't think we know? It's because we care about people more than you do that we've let you get away with as much as we have, as long as we have. But that ends now. That's done. We ain't doing that anymore. And, may the Lord shine down on us and make his truth come out, because we're going to try to do this the way Jesus taught, with peace and with speaking. If people want something different, fine. You want to live in your little shanty of a city and tell everyone how to live, fine. We can find a little totalitarian, crappy condo thing. I can think of a building that's perfect for this, send them to it and make them, live how they want to live, but don't force it on us. We don't want that. And then we choose to live how we want, and we separate and we exclude and we move around. We're blessed with a big land, lots of resources, and we can live differently and we can trade, and we don't have to tell each other how to do everything. And will we be permitted? It's probably not. It's a good dream, it's a good goal, it's something to work for. But look, we live in a world that's evil. I'm a Christian. I can't overlook the thing that I know, which is that one of the things you learn when you study Christianity is that the number one trick that evil has is deception. Satan, if you know the story, the backstory of it, literally was almost like the shroud on the ark, if you want to think of it that way. He was the covering of God, and then he was the choir minister in heaven. You start reading the Apocrypha. And he thought the worship was going to him. And he wants to be worshipped, and he wants to be loved, and he's vain, and he's venial. And so, what are these elites doing? Because they're all occultists. You've studied this, you know this. They want to be loved and worshipped, and whoever's going to replace them, who's going to toss them on the thing, say, "Hey, I have an answer." So I will tell you, if one person comes in here and says, I have one answer to fix everything for all people, and you just need to support me, and technology is going to do it, that's the person you don't need to listen to. That's the danger. Because if things get really good and he comes forward, or if things get really bad and he comes forward, it doesn't matter. The answers have to be with us individually. Jesus had the answers. And in communities and worship, we had an answer. And people separating had answers. And that's where we lived in the good life. And we have to get back to that. And not everyone's going to choose that. I understand this is about something different than that. And there's a problem in that. But you know what? For those of us who have the faith and the belief, I support this because I think we need to use it as a chance to get ourselves separated and to live how we want to live. And yes, get rid of central banking. Absolutely. The Fed needs to go. The Bank of Canada, Bank of England, all these things, the Rothschild banks. Absolutely. Get rid of big pharma, by the way. And get rid of the CDC as a clearinghouse. Get rid of the IRS. Get rid of the FBI. Get rid of the RCMP. Get rid of these institutions that don't serve us, and let's get local. And let's tear down the port. I would love to go across the St. John River and not have to worry about things. I'd love to go over to Clare and Edmonton and do those things without having to be persecuted by not even the Canadian government, the American government. Hey, let's spend 4 hours and talk about what you've been doing lately every time you want to go get a decent thing of Putin. It's crazy. But that's what it is. And we have to break their money. I was reading some smart articles talking about what the post financial future works, where money doesn't exist the way it does. We don't know that answer, but I think it has to be communal. It has to be based on care. It has to be based on labor and outputs, which is that if you put things in, you get things out. But it also needs to be based on need, that we help people in the community who have legitimate needs, people who are widows, who are orphans. That's what Christ said. And I don't know what that looks like, but we're going to figure it out because the money is breaking. The dollar is going to be toilet paper. Look what's happening in Turkey, if you want to hint. Look what happened in Germany in the 30s. Look what happened in Argentina in the 90s. And crypto is interesting. It's useful. If you want to send some to me, by the way, please do. I'll put it to good use, and I'll convert it, and I'll convert it into fixed assets as fast as I can. And by the way, Venmo, CVC, PRV, and super chats are welcome. Actually, we could really use the help right now, but I understand. And if you have it, now's not the time to save it. Now's the time to spend it, because the electronic system of surveillance, which is what the blockchain's all about, is not your friend. Just like the internet ended up being a problem because they were watching us. And decentralization is the fight. And so the institutions that work now, maybe something will emerge. I know a lot of people like Monero, some people like different things. Hey, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But I know this, that the problem, the reason why people aren't going to go for it, if you really want to know, is because let's say you have a big stack of crypto and they're saying, okay, well, let's make a new system. And then one guy says, well, I have 10 million Monero. Let's use that. I don't know what the actual number you'd have is. And then I'll be like, well, why would we let you be the new rich guy? When this reset happens, the reset's going to happen, and everyone's going to want a new starting point. Everyone's going to be at the want to be at a point where the equity, the balance will probably be something like you own what you own, where you reside, you own, and the goods that are in your direct control. But if you own like 12 houses and your landlord don't expect to keep your houses, that's going to be lost for you, because you know what? It's a reset. That's what it means. On the other hand, the idea that everyone sits in a certain equity position is something that's important. So then you take the people who have skills and you allow them to have businesses, and people who have productivity and value. So what you should expect of a simplifying, decentralized economy is that this will work out differently. So if you're a butcher, a baker, or a candlestick maker, if you're a trucker or a logger, or and even in white collar jobs, certain ones. I mean, accountants and auditors. I don't know, but what it's actually tomorrow, Corey. But thank you for that. I appreciate that. Um, what you should expect is those businesses which are local, which can run, which be productive, are useful, they will be there. But big corporations are going to get chopped up, man. And the reason why is because they're too specialized. And what it means is we're going to have less goods, less ability, and life's going to get simple. If you live where I live in northern Maine, we're going to be eating a lot more salt cod, salmon, and chicken in future, and we're probably not going to get certain foods that we've had in the past. We'll be eating blueberries, but we probably won't be eating bananas for a while. So the easy just in time logistics is gone, and learning what you can get locally is going to be so important. Learning what you can cultivate locally, and building those businesses and coming in together as community with those projects. I mean, the right wingers are going to have to be communal now, and we haven't been. And the left wingers, by the way, the left wingers, because I spent a lot of time in Vermont, you're going to have to help lead the way in that, in communities, instead of saying to people, that you have to live this way and going for this authoritarian crap you've gone for. Just demonstrate. I love the hippies that go out there and know how to do all those things, who make organic foods. It's absolutely wonderful, and you connect in your community, and it's fine. We can reconnect care and concern, we can connect community and family. And if you have certain things you want to do and you want to live differently, that's fine. Learn from the Amish, learn from the local areas. And if you haven't figured out who your local suppliers are, you need to be figuring that out right now. That's a really important thing that's going to matter in this. But we're going to have to work through this. Um, I do think that we are going to see. I genuinely believe we are going to see a general breakdown, and the push from the government's going to be to enforce tyranny. And the question is if they can scare people back to work. If enough people shut it down long enough, they will lose control. And then the challenge is that we don't lose control of everything altogether, and we may. They might destroy it, say if they can't have it, we can't have it. That's very likely. These are sociopaths. They're bad people. They're wicked people. They're used to having power. They're used to having money. They want this system. They were willing to destroy a system where they controlled 90% of all things because they wanted 100%. These are not rational actors. These are people who deal with textbook narcissism. And they are, frankly, in my opinion, demonically driven, and in some cases possessed. I genuinely believe that. Um, we have to deal with them. And the way we deal with them is by dealing with each other. We don't need them, they need us. And we need to realize how we take away their ability to hurt us, to impose things on us, and whatever tools they use. And if it means we have to give something up, if we have to give up half our money so they lose all their power, would you make that choice? Are you willing to zero out to save the Oasis? Turn one of their movies against them. And I am. I've been. But I've been in this battle for a long time, and look, you've watched the struggles. If you're a longtime viewer of this channel, I am not promising you life's going to get better. It's going to get worse. It's going to get harder, but it is going to get honest, and that you will now be living a life. The life of freedom is one where you have to depend on yourself. That's what they don't tell you. You want to have a convoy of freedom? Great, have a convoy of freedom. Good, I support it. But understand that means self-sufficiency. That means instead of having a beautiful manicured lard, I'm missing some teeth. It's hard for me to talk. A beautiful manicured yard. what you're going to have is you're going to have be chasing chickens around, and you're going to have to deal with the chicken crap problem, which is
Manicured
harder.
lard.
And I will tell you, for a lot of people who are not used to it, dealing with chicken crap is probably harder than dealing with textbook, a woke progressivism or whatever, ideology you hate. Doesn't matter. That you're going to have to do those things, and that things are going to get simpler, and that you're going to have to remember and learn lessons. But if we do that, and if we're able to work with one another and trade and barter and recognize and fill in the gaps and teach people skills and abilities and utilize the talents we have, we can make this not so bad and make it move faster. Now, will the world allow that? No. Because the truth of it is, let's say we do all this right and we rebuild America. We live out the Victorian novel that Bill Lind wrote under Thomas Hobbes as a pseudonym. You're still going to end up with the problem that China is all in on the art is a beautiful thing. Yeah, especially when it turns into what was the old thing?
Lard is a
What was
beautiful
the thing
thing.
the thing in the thighs? What was it called? Where you got cellulite? That's the thing.
Sorry.
Anyway, no, that's fine. China's going all in on a social credit score. That's happening. That's the reality of places in this world. That you're going to have that happen in probably much of Europe, or at least a try. The people are pushing back against that. You might see it in Russia. You will see it in East Asia. Do we want to be part of that social model? And if not, we're still going to need collective defense. America and Canada are going to have to defend one another. Whether Europe's going to be part of that mix, whether the Anglosphere, I don't know. I know America and Canada are inextricable from each other. I tend to think the UK, Ireland, and Australia, and New Zealand may be a part of that. Um, Something we could do. But you need to start connecting to one another, and you need to recognize that we are still going to have to keep these things aside and let them have their part. And look, I know it sucks, and I know people say, oh, they'll say, oh, we want to fight for democracy in Taiwan. It sucks for the Taiwanese people, but they got to deal with that, and it sucks for Ukraine, but they got to deal with that. And honestly, they'll be safer as part of Russia anyway. They'll be fine. They were part of Russia for many years. It wasn't a problem. Here, we have to deal with our own issues, and we have to deal with that in the United States. We have to deal with that in Canada, and we have to figure out what our future looks like. We are now going to become one country of some sort, and then we may break up into different countries. We may confederate. And the reason I say that is, in Canada, if they don't shut you down, they'll lose control of the puzzle. And the Americans understand that, and that what you have spawned with this convoy in Canada has made possible in America a way to win this, or at least a pathway we can see that maybe isn't violent. Because we've been staring down the barrel. I've wrote the book on it, The Coming Civil War, of a battle for a very long time, and we didn't know the way out of it. And the reason there wasn't a way out of it is because the people themselves were not willing to sacrifice their wealth and comforts, because the state went out and took out any leaders who tried to organize this. This has been a problem for a very long way. That's all right, Tim. I know you're here. It's like they say, once you're here forever. 4chan says that's actually true. What ends up happening is now we are at a position where we have the ability and we have the awareness. People understand the power they have and the leverage that was used against them and the evil ways in which it was manipulated. And the system, with every mistake it makes from here forward, is revealing ever more clearly how much it's hurt the people. And could this be, in the end, could it prove to be some sort of psyop that's being manipulated and adjusted in a way where the attack is done against the people? Yes, absolutely. It could be, but it doesn't matter. The fact is, you now have the possibility of accomplishing this, and they have to convince you don't have that power. And I'm telling you, you do have that power. I'm telling you, as someone who's a very good historian who specializes in studying revolutions, guerrilla movements, insurgencies, all that nastiness, you're not supposed to talk about, that gets, people from the Federal Bureau to come talk to you, to say, hey, what are you thinking these days? I'm not thinking anything. I'm comatose, but I'm watching and I'm commenting. There's a reason I don't get involved, because it wouldn't help anybody. Because they were able to grab me a little too early in the game. That's my own fault. I went ahead and picked battles, and I don't regret it. It's not about that, but it's about understanding and giving advice that's sage advice now. Because in the new world, what you did before, who you were, and I was saying this from the moment COVID broke, that world is gone. It doesn't matter. The old paradigms, what you're fighting for, the world of all the injustices, right and wrong, imagined and real, has gone away. We are now dealing with a tabula rasa. We're dealing with a blank slate if we only have the courage to break where we were before. Are you willing to give up all the advantages you have now beyond what you can carry with you to live in a world where you're not stuck with the burdens that it imposed upon you? Intergenerational debt, government tyranny, central bank debt fraud, you name it, all of these things. And that is the question people have to decide. And what happens is the government's bet cynically in the end is going to be if people are hungry and miserable enough, they will authorize them to go fight this. And the thing is, they can't force the people to work. Usually, what they've been able to do is they've been able to punish people because they can't exist outside the system. But there are key conduits in the system. In the same way that COVID gets into the capillaries and causes problems there, the truckers on the highways and byways are literally shutting this down. Yeah, the DOJ wants to go arrest everyone. That's their answer to everything. They're looking for leaders. But what they don't understand is this is not a leadered movement. This is people, and especially in Canada, who have been so compressed like a spring, they are bursting out into freedom. And let me tell you something, I've spent a lot of time in Canada. Canadians don't like to go do things. They're very polite, they're very gentle people. They're just they don't want to I was sitting in a church in Hoyt, New Brunswick, the penthouse lighthouse, penthouse, the
Are you all right?
Pentecostal
Are you all right?
Lighthouse, no,
Are you okay?
Pentecostal Lighthouse Chapel. I went up there. This was in 2019. I forget his name was Guy Roy. That was the guy who was there, and I was there. I was Columbus Day in America, and it was Thanksgiving in Canada. So they invited me in for Thanksgiving, and it was funny. The Lord actually spoke to me that day. He said, "You need to stop here," and I was going to keep driving by because I was taking a quick tour of New Brunswick. He said, "No, you need to go in there." So I'm like, "All right," so I'll go in there. So go into a church because I'm a God fearing man, and this is what I try to do. And invited me in for Thanksgiving dinner, and I got to know some real backwoodsy Canadians. I mean, you can't find this place on a map. In fact, the only reason I was there was there was a detour on a road, and I had to take a back road. And when things happen, they happen that way. So I'm sitting in this church, and I'm meeting with these old school Canadians. I think one of their last names was Murray, actually, ironically enough. And we're sitting in there, and they're just having a nice conversation. I'm like, and I said, "Don't you get mad?" But they said, "Oh, no, no, we don't get mad." And they were real gentle, mild people, very nice people, mostly older, and that you could tell they were. They loaded me up with my own weight in ham to take with me, where I had the next 2 meals for me, and it was good food, and I was grateful for it. Lord knows. Um, but they weren't mad, and they weren't angry, and they didn't. And they are genteel people. But hey, even a genteel person has enough. I mean, there are stories coming out. I was reading a study this morning. Kids are dealing with learning disabilities, not being able to speak because everyone's wearing these stupid damn masks. They don't see people articulating with their mouth, and they're not learning. They don't have the opportunity. They are dumbing us down. They are breaking us, and this has been a long ongoing effort of people who hate us, who want to get us out of the way so they can have their world. They want their new world order, and you know what? They're not going to go away easy. They may hit us with viruses and diseases. And you know what? If you localize, you can begin surviving outside of them. And then when we support things outside that system, but the Canadians don't want to fight. And they're trying to do this without fighting. And the way they're doing this is more brilliant than I could have ever imagined. And when I say that, I'm not even just saying in terms of imagining it in the sense of something occurring, but literally even just constructing it. And I'm literally a guy who writes books about how to build systems like this. They have figured out a way to leverage the system to reveal its own ugliness. And now you see it, and you have a choice. You can either take the red snapper, which is poisoned, by the way, or you can take what's in the box. And there may be nothing in the box, but even nothing is better than something that's bad. It's the danger in history is you always look for the lesser of two evils. And this is what Pineland's all about. Let's not look for the lesser of two evils. Let's do means instead of ends. Let's start doing good things and let the system develop organically. Okay? Let people solve their own problems. Let's help the truckers out. Let's have the farmers help the truckers. Let's say that, hey, let's have the people help their neighbors. Let's have the churches help and the communities help. And we don't need governors to help. We don't need them to give their strings attached solutions. We don't need their mandates. We don't need their you pay us back. We don't need their, you have to follow our laws. No. This country, I'll tell you the secret of America, and I think it's even more true for Canada. America wasn't great because we had the Constitution, although the Bill of Rights is very good. America wasn't great because of Washington D.C. and all those homages to Osiris's dick. I mean, honestly, that's what it is. You really can look it up. I'm not even making it up. This thing's been around for thousands of years. It's because of the fact that there was a frontier where there were places in this world where the government couldn't get to, and as we see technology try to get into each and every one of those places, we need to kick them out, keep them out, and make sure no one can do it to us. And will we disagree? Yes, but we should be able to disagree locally, and we should have to talk through it. And there shouldn't be a referee always to go through there. Yeah, you're going to need courts, and you're going to need sheriffs, and there's going to be problems. But I'll tell you what, the idea that there's a referee to solve every problem is the biggest danger we have. I said it in Come Out of Babylon, there is not one system in this world that works to save us. That's literally what Satan's plan has ever been. You want to know the answers to this world? Look to the Lord Jesus Christ, who said, honor God, seek that which is better, follow his word, and support and love your neighbor like yourself. That was the system. That's the answer. That's God's word, not my word. And you know what? We won't try it because we're scared. We're scared, and this is where you have to come over fear. Freedom over fear means that we accept there are going to be losses, there are going to be casualties, and yet it is a good life. It is a better life. It is a hard life. It is an honest life, and we need to cut through every bit of lie here. And a lot of lies are still being defended in the name of how should I say, the ability of community to work together. We have to say things are false. And if people want to believe falsehoods and you just can't convince them, let them live apart. But stop imposing things on people. Stop imposing these odd things. End cancel culture. End the culture war. End this idea that the left has pushed endlessly, that they've been funded by their corporate donors to say, you must comply, you must conform. You know what? There is no human secular utopia. And if you rely on human wisdom to save us, you're going to create a hell on earth. That's been the story of the West. We need to get away from that. And I know this isn't where this movement is yet, but I'm going to tell you where you're going to end up. What I did after years of dissident politics, talking to very smart people trying to accomplish things. If you don't put God at the center of it, it's all going to fail. And that's fine. Some people will succeed and some people will fail, and we can admit and accept failure, and we can try different things. America used to be a democracy where you had 50 different states trying things. It wasn't really a democracy, but you get the point. Now we need to try different things, and maybe it's 4,000 different counties and it's different locals. And the good things will work and the bad things will go away, and people will learn, but one size fits all isn't it. And whatever solution comes in, you got to allow people locally to be who they are. You can't make a Mainer into a Texan. You can't make an Albertan into a Quebecois. It just doesn't happen. They don't have that certain je ne sais quoi. You know, it's not how it is. And it's not because they're bad people. It's just different. It's different living in the St. Louis. I've been out west. It's different. It wouldn't work, you know? And maybe, when it's all done, my own thought, I'm a radical guy. Let's get rid of the debts. Who's it helping? Do you guys need your debts? Let's erase them. Let's have a lottery. In your town, you have a chance to get a better house, maybe. If there's people who don't live there, we don't need vagrancy. People have 12 different, oh, I earned that. Well, you know what? Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but now we're going to do something different. And if everyone walks away and everyone's taken care of, and then you allow people to start over again, are you going to have equal outcomes? No. You shouldn't have equal outcomes because you don't have equal inputs. But you should have a floor that takes care of everyone, a community where we actually care and don't look at people as a burden, and where people are rewarded for what they do, and we don't have these gigantic corporations that run everything. We don't have these giant governments. We don't have these giant banks and big pharma and all that. And will it be a world where we have less, stuff and less cool toys? Yeah, it will. But it'll be better because we'll have to connect to one another as people. Is the value of this world in the stuff we have and the systems that we run, or is it in the connections of genuine human contact that we've been all too willing to give up for too long, and from finding truths by asking things? I have more fun watching videos about octopi try to open doors than I do about watching about politics. So Dana and I, when we get tired, we'll watch that, or we'll watch these videos of little squirrels opening up nut things. And I'm saying that because we're seeing the wonder of nature. We need to rediscover our curiosity about the world and wisdom, and take a step back and contemplate instead of act. This efficiency, just in time, immediate society is terrible. And the truckers who have been at the heart of it, who've been broken for years, who had to have double logbooks and run strong routes and do all the things under ever increasing mandates, they've said enough. Because these are men who literally, all they want to do is be left free to go sit in their box and think in their mind, and they can't because you're saying, well, you're too aggressive. All they wanted to do was drive a damn truck. And they're like, no, you're too much of a threat. We're going to remove him. The biggest threat is the person who thinks they have every answer for everything in life. God said none of us have that. Man does not have that wisdom. And we shouldn't pretend we do. One world system, one world order. That's what they want. And we're trying to stop them. And I don't know where the fight goes from here, but what I'm telling you is we have now reached the point of critical mass where the pretense of this old world order working has gone away. The dollar will break, and when it breaks, all the Western currencies will break with it. Inflation's at the point where we're going to run into hyperinflation this year. that the supply chain shortages are going to exacerbate that, the production is going to go away, and they're going to try to have tyranny at absolute thing based on the idea that terrorism of starving people, and they're going to rile up the people in the cities where they can who are going to be partners to that regime, and they're going to say they want to fight us. That's what's going to happen. Whether people in the city choose to go for it or not, they don't watch videos like this. They watch videos like the CBC puts out where they're told we're all evil, rotten Nazis who run around and do terrible things. And it's not true. It's never been true. And believe me, as someone who's been defamed as being a Nazi, it was never true because I went out there and I said to people, it's like, hey, you can't blame white people for everything. It's, oh, he's a Nazi. No, it's just the truth. I don't blame black people for everything. I don't blame Asian people or Latin people. And look, I'm not here to go through the whole sequence of it, but the fact is, you're going to have to judge people on the content of their character. The conservatives are actually right about that in the end and what they believe. And if people have stupid beliefs, you can tell them they have stupid beliefs. And you should be able to tell them they have stupid beliefs and argue like, oh, well, you're offending me? Good. Maybe you need to be offended. Maybe you need to feel uncomfortable for a minute. You know what? All these people, they always get to feel comfortable. Guess what? Honk, honk. Oh, you don't like when people don't let you think in your own little mind. Okay. Well, why don't you extend that right to others? And then ultimately, if we all decide we want different things, we separate and go our ways and see things. And that's maybe where it goes.
Do you need a hug?
Yeah, I need a hug. Am I too fired up? That's a bit. No, it's fine. It's fine. This has been a long-term battle for me. Y'all know I've been around for a while. Let's see what you guys are writing here. We've got some good comments in here. All right. Who do we got here? Let's see. We got Christy. Corporations and monopolies have destroyed America. Absolutely. I agree with you. Hypersonic weapons are a problem. Corey, good to see you. God bless, sir. I hope you are doing well. Inflation is insane. The CARES Act. Yeah, no, it's terrible. It's look, the dollar's broken, and at this point, they're just trying to put surveillance bits in there. It's really true. We love lard. I have a community of almost 100 people living on 100 acres, and we are self-sufficient, have our own currency. Man, that is frigging awesome.
That sounds like they
Congratulations.
love lard.
Yeah, no, that's not the love lard guy. That's the Canadian guy. What? Who said they loved lard? Corey loves lard.
What was it that you said?
Maybe he loves menudo.
So, what was
That's
it
what they
about
call
the
it.
lard?
No, I said yard. I was trying to say yard, and I said lard. That's
But
what.
in what context? I forget.
Oh, I don't remember.
It was really funny though.
We can go back. It's saved for all time in history here, at least on YouTube. So yeah, and in every community, y'all have to figure out how you can do it. It's not necessarily one thing. We have some friends, but not as many. Yeah, absolutely. Tim, good to see you here. And by the way, a degree of kindness to people who've been wrong. Allow people to be wrong. Allow people to repent. The Lord allows us to repent. We always have to have enough forgiveness in our hearts for people who've been wrong. Even people who we really don't like. There are a lot of people I really don't like. And, the burden of having to hate people is too heavy. Don't carry that. The DOJ are discussing arresting people who speak about fake information. Yeah, well, of course they are. And I want to say, I am so ashamed of federal law enforcement. And I know some of those guys. Y'all need to speak up. This is your time. Say to them, we're not going to do this. Stay home. Just stay home. You know what? Local communities need cops. You can feed a family of 4 with a Walpini greenhouse using hydroponic worm bins with quails and rabbits instead of 100 square feet area. You know what, Free Green? Send me a message, newalbion at protonmail.com, if you will. I wouldn't mind if you're game for it, and we can figure out a way to protect your anonymity if you want. Maybe to share some things, or if you want to send a little video in, I'll just post it on the channel if you want to do it that way. So that we can maybe share some of that really good content you have. Or if you have your own channel and you want to promote that, that's fine too. I'd be very happy to put that out there because a lot of what I do is I do the political commentary. I put the spiritual connection to it so you can see the Christian perspective. I am not the world's expert homesteader. I'm just a guy who was smart enough to get out of the way, and I literally ran with a chicken under each arm, kind of like Pee Wee running out of the pet house in that movie,
did.
Large Marge was coming after me, and I was scared. Scariest thing I remember as a kid. Scary scene. Anyway, so we went running to the country, and that's what we've done. All Americans told to leave Ukraine. Adverse possession is interesting. In America, it's 20 years, though. For those who don't understand what adverse possession is, if you squat somewhere and put an improvement on somewhere, you can actually claim the land if no one goes against you, as long as it isn't government land, and that's why people out west fight the BLM. Let's see. They believe in one size fits all solutions, no matter what your needs, and if you don't like it, you must be a bigot. Yeah, no, that's what they want, and that's fine. And they have to impose. I mean, think about it. They have to indoctrinate. They don't allow alternate systems. And frankly, my own opinion, I think we need to get rid of schooling that's run through the state. I think the state should do very few things. The power to tell people what to think should usually be detached from the power to put people together with guns. It should be used for very few things like murder, rape, robbery, stuff like that, and of course for collective self-defense. Other than that, you really don't want government doing too much. Now, if you've read my new Albion books, you know that in it I talk about the idea of sort of what evolved into this Christian monarchy, and I do believe having a leader at the top who does cultural work that's more soft power, that unites people in state and common understanding and charity and kindness. Those are the things you need to go. A good state. I mean, really, if you have a good leader, their job is to unite the people, to build the nation, so that you don't have to have the state. Because the nation state, if you have too much nation, you don't have to have such a big state. But if you have too much state, your nation dies because you could become a corrupt empire that falls forward. And that's what's happened to America and a lot of these other countries that are in our orbit in the West. So we're going to see how this plays out. But I just want to say in closing here that what my hope is for each and every one of you, and I will not be around tomorrow. I'm going to take my ham test. I'm going to be getting up at 3 in the morning to go do this. Crazy because I got to go drive 4 hours to take it. But I want you to understand that now is the time to get prepped. Anything can happen from here. If comms go down, it has been an honor and pleasure being able to reach all of you. I will be trying to figure out how to get myself onto ham radio so I can continue. It's no accident I'm doing things the way I am, so that we can go here, but we will be on the internet. For the people in Canada specifically, since you guys are likely to deal with it, if you get shut down, get the messages out to us in the US. We will broadcast it. If you have messages you want to get out anonymously and you are Canadian, you are welcome to use this channel, and I will use whatever networks I have and people who will listen and put them out there. Find us on Telegram. It's probably the best place to organize. We're in Atlantic homeland. It's special love to the people who are out here in the Maritimes as well as the Quebecois. Welcome all of you. And if you're willing to accept the fact that my French is very slow and bad, I'm certainly willing to communicate with you as well.
Mais oui.
Yeah, I am my special superpower is I speak French so badly the Quebecois speak in English to me of their own volition. That's saying something. And I've always been very proud of that fact. But that's fine. I like speaking French. I'm just not very good at it. We have an opportunity here. It's a small window. There's a lot of pain and suffering ahead, but I'm telling you, it's better. And sometimes pain is a good thing. You get a wound when you're a kid. You get a bad scrape. Your mom puts peroxide on it. It burns. You cry. You're so upset.
You got the
But you
peroxide?
heal it, and you got to get the wound out. Because if you don't, you know what happens? You have to amputate.
You
And
got
we may need to amputate, but what's the Lord say? Better you pluck out your own eye, or you give up your own member, which could mean any number of organs, that you go ahead and let that lead you into destruction, into sin, into death, into falsehood. That is that. And that's what we have to push against. Yeah. What were you saying, dear?
you never had the pleasure of having mercurochrome dumped on a
No,
gaping
what is
wound?
mercurochrome? I don't even know.
It's like red mercury.
That sounds really awful.
It
How much
is.
worse than peroxide is it?
Oh my god! You don't.
I have
You've
no idea.
never
No,
had that?
my mom wasn't.
Oh.
No.
When I split the palm of my hand open when I was like 6, my dad freaked out. He just dumped the whole bottle of mercurochrome.
Is that like an industrial solvent or something? Because I know your family
How do
has.
you not know what this is?
I don't know. I don't. How do I not know? I didn't know what a hip swivel was either. I learn new things all the time. Everyone always thinks they know everything. I don't know everything. I just know a lot. It was like, how do you not know? And I feel so bad. I'm like, why don't I know everything? Download. Be like Grimes. Get the chip. No, no chips. Don't get chips.
Mercurochrome is nasty.
Murray.
Nasty.
There you go. Most inventions came from studying nature's how it works. And Tim writes a good point because this is something we talk about on the Knowledge channel. We haven't as much because the news has overtaken us, but he's right. The AI has not and will not stop its progression. Look, the AI wants information. It's like you are the prisoner. You are now number 6, okay? What happens? In fact, here is number 6. We'll bring him on camera. Number 6, the carbon unit. This is what we call Murray. He's
the carbon unit.
Murray, you have anything you want to say to the people?
I'm not a number. I'm a free carbon unit.
Well, you know what the old joke is. We used to say to him, because the joke is, if you've ever seen, this is a real funny thing, and I'm going to share a little personal thing from our own life, just because you guys are kind of like family to us in some ways. And some of you have been really close, and thank you for your generosity in helping support the program. The Venmos through CVC, PRV have literally kept us afloat. We couldn't have done this without you. But we were saying in the beginning, if you've ever seen The Old Prisoner, it's like from, 1967, something like that, of McLuhan. And it's a great show. It's a great dystopian show that I highly recommend you watch. You can go find it on YouTube here for free if you don't just look for it. You'll be able to find it. And he's on this island in this place called or not island. He's on a place called the Village, and it's this place where it's like this fake society, like a Potemkin village, where everyone's not who they seem, and so they don't have names because it doesn't matter. So he says he's given a number, and so in the intro they say, I am or he says, you are number six. And he says, I'm not a number, I'm a free man. So Murray, we went to Murray and we said, we were doing the thing, we always do this little thing in our house because we do emulation things because, couples do silly things and whatever. And saying, like, in the theme, it goes, you want, or I'll say it, we want information.
You won't get it!
By hook or by crook, we will. Okay, well, what's the next line
I
after
don't
that?
remember.
Okay. I am number two. You
Who is number one?
wait. You are number six.
I am not a number. I am a free man.
No, but right, and that's what it says. But I went to Murray, and this is where it gets funny. It's real micro. But I said, you are number six, and then Murray said, I'm a free carbon unit. And
I am a free carbon unit.
wait, that's element number six.
I am number six.
So yeah, that's really dorky. But anyway, that's Sheldon tier, but that's fine. It was a funny joke. You had to be there. We are corny, quirky people. So hopefully you'll appreciate it. But Tim's right. The AI, look, AI. In the same way we exist on fuel, AI exists on information. One of the reasons why the elites who are listening to these systems, like the Ascension World Simulation, look it up, University of Purdue, that the governments have been funding, is because they want information from us, within us, to control us, to connect us, to see things, because that's how it learns. It sees us as data points that can be out there, that are quantum computers that can be added as an energy source and the ability to control the environment. And the occultists at the heart of this, that are the controllers, go back to the World Economic Forum, the people at CERN, the people who are dealing with strange matter at a higher level beyond the political level, do want this. And interestingly, this is the danger for them. Politics to them is like a utility. It's something they have to deal with, they won't want. But you might have the fanciest machine in the world. You start pulling the plug from it, and that's what happens if the politics go away. All of those projects we hate might just go away as well. And maybe we can have a conversation that's long overdue about the fact that we've been giving power over to machines to run our lives. The elites think that that's the smartest way to do that, and it is ruining what it means to be human. Do we value the experience of our lives, the connections with one another, living close to the land on this wonderful planet that was given us most? Or do we want to try to go ahead and find technology to cheat death, be oversaturated with stimulation in a dopamine driven hellhole that literally is a soul trap? And that's the conversation. That's the end battle. And the truth of it is, if the Bible is to be believed, and I believed, is most people will go in on it. And yet we can't exist without it. And the Lord says in the end that if he doesn't return, no flesh will be saved, which means one thing: some flesh will be saved if we hold out. So if we stand up strong here and we hold out, we take a big step towards starting to stand together and being able to hold out longer against this system. And they can attack us, they can destroy us, they can kill us, but only we can change ourselves. And that's my message to each and every one of you: that you have a soul, you have a spirit, you are made in the loving image of a creator who has plans to prosper you, and that you should stand up for that and value that and really think about what that means. So let me close with a prayer. Heavenly Father, I just thank you for the gift of life you've given us, for the chance to live in your image and to experience in some small way something you wanted to share that's precious to us. Thank you for that gift, and help us who try to stand up for that, who speak that in these crazy times, find a way to speak words that are pleasing to you. Let the Holy Spirit guide our words, and let us find through peace and connection a chance to bring more people home. We know it's your will, Father, that no one be lost, and that, God willing, that those of us who are speaking, let us speak good words that are pleasing to you, and be in peace with the blood of the Lamb over each of us. God bless every one of you, and in the Father's in the name of Almighty Jesus, Amen. It's not my best prayer, but that's okay.
Hey, you've been tongue tied. It's fine.
I am. I've been having. You guys know this. I am dealing with an ongoing problem where my tongue just feels numb and weird. I literally feel like I'm talking through lidocaine, which makes this incredibly difficult. So if my eloquence is not what you're used to, please forgive me. But hey, you know what? There have been plenty of prophets who were tongue tied. I'm no prophet, but if they can fight through it, and I'm trying to say a good word, I'm going to do the best I can, and just ask for a little bit of grace and mercy on that. So God bless each and every one of you. A reminder: if you want to support the program, the Venmo CVCPRV, you can find me very easily on Telegram, t.me/Atlantic Homeland. Don't be surprised if you don't get a broadcast from the road tomorrow. Probably, if my guess is right, sometime between about 12 and 2 p.m. Probably between 1 and 2 p.m. I'll probably try to get on here and share some thoughts from what I see while I'm out there. But we'll see. It depends how traffic, weather, all those sort of things. And just go get prepped up, man. That's the best thing I can say. And begin prepping there. I saw your message, Free Green. Thank you. Yeah, and absolutely. Let me know the channel. I will be happy to share it here. And if you have some stuff that is really on that. Maybe we can get you on some other channels too. Sounds like you guys have a really good get up there, and if there are people who can help, and one other thing too, I have a hunch. I have a hunch I'm going to volunteer for something stupid. It's way beyond me, but that's fine. It's not the first time I've done this. I'll have to talk to the missus once we get off air about it. But if you can help other people in your area, let's try to start figuring out who all is willing to do that. If you want to do that privately, just have me be your intermediary. I'm good at keeping things kind of quiet, but I want to try to help connect some dots, and I have a hunch that's going to be needed because the story that they want to tell is that we who are trying to save the world from itself, in the sense that we're not trying to go in on a system that says the world has all the answers, are going to be presented as the bad guys. We are going to have to anticipate solutions to the problems that are going to be thrown at us. Start thinking about that. And if you want to have greater safety, think about it beyond the needs of your immediate family. You obviously need to put the mask on first before you take care of your child. But I'm saying, from the old airline trip, not these stupid things that don't even block anything. All they do is make sure you swallow your own mucus all day. It's terrible. But
Nasty.
I'm saying it is nasty. But I'm saying that in a broader sense. So, in any case, we went 70 minutes. Now I get to rest the rest of my day because I have to go to bed at like 6 p.m. tonight. It's ridiculous. But that's the way it is. That's okay. Thank you for your prayers, your good wishes. Just a couple prayers for a couple friends of the program. We have someone who is, what was I going to say? Two friends of the program. We have one, actually, two different people I know who are having elder in-laws who are very sick and struggling. COVID, they've been jabbed, so problem there. But please pray for them. Keep them in your prayers. I don't want to admit the people who are there, but also pray for them to come to the Lord. That's a really big thing. And the story of potentially new birth of a close friend of the program coming forward that's having some issues. So just pray for those people. The Lord will know who they are, and Dana and I will be praying as well. We need to lift each other up. God bless each and every one of you. Have a great day. Pinelander out.